From the Deptford hood to Hollywood, this is how Rapman has changed the culture forever, with his writing and directing and the creation of one of the best Netflix series ever, and probably the best of 2024, straight from the South London borough of Lewisham. This is Dirty Culture, creating videos on great things happening in the culture and our thoughts on unanswered questions. I'm here to be corrected, so shout me, let's have a conversation. Andrew Onwubolu was born in Deptford, in the London borough of Lewisham, of Nigerian-born parents. Growing up, he went to school in Camberwell, South London, which eventually became one of his biggest challenges growing up, as the streets became hot due to a beef between Peckham and Lewisham. Rapman's name came from when he was young and on the block. He was a big fan of Tupac, Biggie, Nas and Jay-Z, so he learned how to rap. This was during the era in the UK of early grime and garage. His friends used to spit on the block over different types of garage beats, but when he used to join in, he would rap his bars all the time in an American accent. So his friends started calling him the Rapman, and it stuck. And he decided to see how far he could take it.
And it's like 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, and I'll be coming like, yo, shorty, man, someone came on the swing. So it was just like, man, was like, right, you're always coming through with your just rapping, but you see, and then my brother just nicknamed me Rapman, like from then, that just stuck, fam. That just stuck with me. So when I came into the game, it's only right I figured to use the name that I got in it, the name that I had. Okay.
Rapman began taking music more seriously around 2013 and started making music, creating stories in music and creating music videos using his own budget like the Blue Story Trilogy. Then going on to work with SBTV on some music videos and creating the UK version of the end of the year wrap-ups. In 2016, Joey Clipstar approached Rapman to do a story song for a Link Up TV compilation, but the project fell through. Shiro's story sat on the laptop around that time and eventually got placed on a Rapman EP called What's the Story, which released on the 10th of November 2017. He got a lot of praise for the song, so he decided to do a visual for it. He said it was the first time he invested so much of his own money into a visual after years of creating videos for his songs, but said if he's going to do it, he's going to do it properly.
So I've done the video, part 1, not expecting nothing, but it cost me a lot of money, that video, because I've never spent as much money on the video as I did for Shiro Story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's the first time I invested so much into a visual.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, what am I doing, bro? Just to get nothing back as usual. But if I'm going to do something, I'd rather do it right or not do it at all, innit?
Shiro's Story was released on Sunday, the 8th of April 2018. When he put it out, he didn't plan to do a part 2, but said on socials he would do a part 2 if part 1 got 1 million views.
So when you made part 1, you had no intention of doing part 2?
None.
Oh, really?
But them videos cost money, you know. Man can't just be doing them things for a little 100,000 views and all of that. Not knocking everyone that's getting 100,000 views. I was happy with 100,000 views, but that 100,000 views don't compensate for the money I pulled out of my pocket.
Right.
And I don't play with the visuals. One thing with me, my visuals got to be right.
It dropped on Link Up TV and it ended up topping 1 million in under a week, or around 4 or 5 days. It really popped off. Rapman, Shiro's Story is the maddest song I've ever heard. The ending blew my mind. Nah, the plot twist had me crying. The realest person that got you is the person you see in the mirror. Hashtag Shiro's Story. The plot twist in @RealRapman, hashtag Shiro's Story, had me like, great work, brother. Over 500,000 views in a day. Looking like I'm finally gonna join the Millie Club. Hashtag Shiro's Story. Shiro's Story currently sits on YouTube with 10 million views. Also winning a GRM Weighted Award and opening the door for the creation of part 2, as he promised. Now, with the promise of making a sequel, he's set to work writing part 2. During this time, Island Records came around with a deal after the buzz of Shiro's Story part 1. Eventually, they got cold feet and pulled out 4 days before he started filming part 2.
And then one I got a call one day saying, yeah, they've pulled out. I'm like, what do you mean they pulled out? Yeah, they've pulled out, man. I said 4 days to go before the video and they've pulled out. I said, yeah, they've pulled out. Oh, this video's costing a madness. But video's costing a madness, like 3 times more than the first one.
The label's vision wasn't clear at the time because they couldn't see where they would recoup their money from a story that would live on YouTube. Things have changed so much now in the current climate.
They didn't see how they could monetize from anything like this. Because if you think about someone like Shiro's Story, you can't playlist that, really.
Okay.
And then because they prefer the visual, it's not getting bare streams. So the labels are just like, we just don't know how we can recuperate. So forget it.
Rapman had to then be ready to pay out of his own pocket again, like his first production, as everything was planned and booked in, saying he'd hit the roads to make the money to pay for it. As the production was run professionally, he was receiving invoices with 30-day payment terms, which served as his buffer.
Yeah, 'cause remember, because we're doing it in a professional sense, it's literally just invoice me. So I kind of had 30 days. You know the one, you got 30 days on the invoice. Man's got 30 days to just hit
Man's
the
back
roads
in a
and-
bando trying to make a race.
Why? I didn't want to say it, but there was some OT done to pay that 30 for that 30 days there. You get me?
He created part 2 that he stated was his favourite, and him and his team started shopping it around as the trailer they knew they had created was a banger. This actually brought back major interest from Ireland, so they returned to take a risk with a larger offer to invest in part 2 and 3, but they also had to fight off another label who agreed to the same offer, but Rapman decided to go with Ireland. Shiro's Story Part 2 was released on Sunday the 1st of July 2018, getting 1 million views in 2 days, and is currently standing at 10 million views. Rapman then went on to complete Part 3 and the final of the trilogy. Part 3 came out on Sunday the 18th of September 2018 and went crazy, hitting 1 million views in 5 hours, beating off BBC's Bodyguard's final episode, a popular series at the time, as a trending topic on Twitter and making the news the next day because of it, hitting 3 million views in 4 days. 3 million views in 4 days. There are still people who have not seen it, so let's keep spreading the good word. Hashtag Shiro Story. Hashtag Shiro Story 3. This led to various publications contacting Rapman for interviews, write-ups and interest from production companies. Rapman had the foresight to see that if Shiro Story popped off, it would change his life. And just like Michael in Supacell, he saw into the future and what it would hold for him. Up until this day, Shiro Story is the most viewed YouTube series to come out of the UK from the scene, with a total of 33 million views across all 3 videos, and still growing from the uptake from Supacell. During the buzz of Shiro Story Part 2 and 3, Jamal Edwards of SBTV, rest in peace, sent Rapman an email stating that James Samuel, one of Jay-Z's good friends, and Jay-Z want to talk with him. Rapman sent him his number, but wasn't sure if it was real. He hadn't spoken to Jamal in a while, so he was skeptical and got back to his business. James eventually FaceTimed Rapman and spoke to him about how much he loves and respects his work and needing a sit down with him and Jay-Z, which Rapman couldn't believe. He then eventually gave Rapman a late night FaceTime call while Rapman was putting his little ones to bed. Rapman was reluctant to have the conversation as he was busy and tired, but James ended up putting Jay-Z on the FaceTime call, giving Rapman his flowers and speaking on getting something in motion with Rock Nation.
10 days later, I'm putting my daughter to bed now. And he's called, and I'm just like, oh, bro, this is that crazy brother with the black one guy. I'm like, nah. So I was like, okay, I said, one sec. I said to my little girl, chill. I said, yo, bro, I'm just putting my little one to bed. And he goes, wait. It's black guard. Speak to my friend first. I was like, bro. Yo. And it's home, bro. I'm like, bro, this guy's a dick.
Rapman eventually signed to Rock Nation in 2018 with a management deal with various other ventures on the table. Also during this time, he inked a deal with BBC and Paramount to bring his movie script to life, Blue Story, which was released the following year. Blue Story was a piece Rapman first put together in 2013 based on his past story In the Ends. He put it out as a trilogy eventually, which he actually re-uploaded a few years back. After he put it out, he got comments and messages saying that it should be made into a movie when it came out back then.
When I started rapping like in the UK kind of thing, I noticed that there was no one really telling rap stories. And I done like my first story video, which is Blue Story. Every comment under the Blue Story video was like, this should be a movie, this should be a movie. People love the gritty gutter stuff, you know?
So he decided to look into getting the film written. He even got in touch with a writer that quoted him 30k to produce the script, which he swiftly declined.
You know them, I've never wrote a film them times before, so I remember calling up one brother that I know that's a writer, and I was like, yeah, I've got a thing, can you write it? And he's like, yeah, 30 grand. I was like, what? I ain't got no 30 grand. Hanged up that phone quickly.
He eventually got a discounted version of Final Draft after deciding to write it himself, and after failing to use Word on several occasions, realizing there must be a better way to write it up. He eventually finished the script in 6 months, held on to it for 12 months before passing it to a friend to read who doesn't usually read. This ended up in an early morning phone call from his friend saying that he couldn't put the script down. After the success of Shiro's story, Rapman got offers as he predicted and was able to bring it to the big screen with a budget. Blue Story hit the big screens all across the UK and became the highest grossing urban film of all time from the UK, surpassing Kidulthood, Adulthood, amongst other urban movies that came from the ends to solidify Rapman into the Hall of Fame of UK talent. The movie was unlike other urban movies as it had a musical element to it and was based on moments in the life of Rapman growing up. It received 13 nominations in total from the National Film Awards and won Best Film at the 2020 NME Awards, along with Michael Ward picking up Best Actor.
And the winner is Blue Story.
The basis of the Supacell project was spoke out loud in this interview.
But I want to do a sci-fi one day. I could do something like a Misfits, but a bit deeper. Like, imagine someone from where we came from gets powers. Like real powers. Like, what would man really do with powers? Someone might steal this idea. Secretly, I'm with it. No, I'll be wrong, but like, you'll be surprised, you know.
Oh, if you could pick any power, what would you pick?
I would want super speed and mind reading.
Speed and
He was eventually asked to dinner by Netflix UK and to choose anywhere that he wanted to go. Rapman chose Novikov. He said he ordered the best from the menu. Netflix wanted to see if he had anything for them. So after talking about a few ideas that didn't land, he decided to talk about the idea he mentioned on the back of the bus in that BBC interview, stating that when he did, they stopped talking and eating, wanted to hear more. He realized they had dollar signs in their eyes. This was the one Netflix wanted, and he started writing a series in 2020 when COVID hit and London and the UK were in lockdown. In a scene where the popularity of hood films are high, Rapman came in with a new set of eyes and opened up a whole new world for others to follow. It was easy for people to speak on his movie Blue Story and say it promotes a certain lifestyle, but then you are being short-sighted, as it touched on various other subjects: love, school culture, peer pressure, personal changes, and life as many young children today know it. Fast forward 4 years later, in the making, Supacell covered even more ground with the subject matter, with the streets being intertwined into 1/5 of the story surrounding 5 different characters. The thing is, this is what culture needed. It needed someone to come in and expand on genres we've lightly touched on with a bigger backing. I'm not deep in the independent film scene like that, so there may be some things I've missed, but from the outside looking in, these are really strong foundations that this series has laid the groundwork for. And I am confident that Rapman has planted way more than a handful of seeds this time around after the success of Blue Story. I've seen some amazing independent work that include different genres on YouTube from channels like Million Youth Media, but from what I see, these major corporations aren't doing enough to embrace the independent filmmakers enough or promote enough when they do. My main point is that Rapman has fought through and changed the landscape with Supacell. Imagine the next person building a rival world, or going on to create a larger than life fantasy series, or exploring other genres where people like you and I have not been predominant in. There are no boundaries, we just need the tools to push it further. We also need the time to take to explore and support the independent scene too, to help bring attention to strong stories that can make the big screen. Rapman has changed the game. Please like and subscribe, and if you haven't yet, I encourage you to watch Supacell, as it's sick and season 2 is on the way. Thank you.